Far away, in a galaxy filled with stars and planets, there was a world called Zerthia. This world was home to many strange and powerful creatures. The most powerful of them all was the alien queen named Zyra. She was tall, strong, and wise. Her skin shimmered like silver in the light, and her eyes were deep and bright like stars. All the people of Zerthia respected and feared her. She ruled with a strong hand, but also with care. Zyra was a great leader. She had fought many battles to keep her people safe. She made sure that the laws were just and that her world grew stronger every day. Her army was the best in the galaxy, and her advisors told her she was almost perfect. But even with all this power, there was one thing she did not understand: the strange stories about Earth and its people. Many years ago, Zyra's spies had heard rumors from other planets about humans. They were said to be strange creatures who felt many different emotions. They loved, they fought, and they dreamed. But most of all, the stories told of a thing called Climax. The word was spoken in whispers, as if it were a secret or a joke. The alien queen had always thought this climax was just a myth, something that humans made up for fun. She could not see why it mattered. For Zyra, life was about strength and control. She believed that emotions were weak and that they distracted leaders from making good decisions. Her world had no place for such things. The people of Zerthia were taught to be proud and brave, but not to waste time on feelings that could cause pain. The queen's rule was firm, and her laws were strict. Her people respected her for it. One day, Zyra stood on the balcony of her grand palace. From here, she could see the purple mountains and the glowing forests of her world. The stars shone bright above, and the quiet hum of Zerthia's great cities filled the air. Her mind was full of plans. She was thinking about the next step for her empire. There were other planets nearby, rich with resources and technology. She wanted to bring them under her control. But a small voice inside her wondered about Earth again. Why did humans talk so much about this climax? Was it really just a myth? Could it be true that humans had some power she did not understand? The thought was strange, and Zyra pushed it away. She had no time for myths. There was too much to do. Suddenly, her advisor, a tall creature named Vex, came to her side. Vex was loyal and wise, but also very cautious. "Your Majesty," he said, in his deep voice, "we have received a message from Earth." Zyra's eyes narrowed. Earth was a small, distant planet, and not very important to her. But she was curious. "What does this message say?" she asked. Vex handed her a small, glowing device. On it, a human face appeared, a man with brown hair and kind eyes. He spoke clearly in the language of the galaxy, but his voice held something warm and different. "Greetings, Queen Zyra," the man said. "I am Captain Eric Cole, envoy from Earth. I come in peace and hope to build friendship between our peoples." Zyra was surprised. No human had ever sent a message like this before. Usually, they were quiet or afraid, but Eric's words were strong and honest. She studied his face carefully. There was no fear, no anger, only hope. "Tell me more, Captain," she said. Eric explained that Earth was a planet full of many kinds of people. They had faced war and peace, joy and sorrow. Humans believed in many things, including the power of connection between people. He spoke about emotions, about love, and about the strange idea of climax, a moment of great feeling and unity. Zyra listened, but still did not believe. "This climax you speak of," she said, "is it real, or just a story to make life seem more exciting?" Eric smiled gently. "It is very real, Your Majesty. It is one of the deepest experiences we have. It is not just physical, but also emotional and spiritual." The Queen thought about this. For her people, such things were weak. Leaders must be strong and clear, but Eric's words planted a seed of curiosity in her heart. "Very well," she said at last. "You will come to Zerthia. We will see if your people's stories are true." Eric bowed respectfully. "I will come with honor." As preparations began for Eric's arrival, Zira's mind raced. What would she learn from this strange human? Could there really be something powerful in feelings and passion? For the first time in a long time, the alien queen felt something new, a question she could not answer. And so, the story of Zira and Eric began. The great ship from Earth flew smoothly through the purple skies of Zerthia. Inside the ship, Captain Eric Cole prepared for his meeting with Queen Zira. He was nervous, but also excited. He knew that this meeting could change everything for his people and for the aliens on this distant planet. Eric had spent many years training to be a captain. He was brave and kind. He had faced many dangers in space, but this meeting was different. He was not just a soldier or a diplomat. He was a bridge between two very different worlds. The ship landed near the grand palace of Queen Zira. The palace was tall and shining, made of silver and glass that reflected the bright stars. Guards with sharp eyes and strong weapons watched as Eric stepped out. But Eric walked with calm and respect. The guards brought Eric to the great throne room. There, Queen Zira waited. She was as tall and powerful as he had heard. Her silver skin gleamed and her eyes studied him carefully. "Welcome, Captain Eric Cole," she said in a strong, clear voice. "You come from a small planet, but your courage is large." Eric bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I come in peace, hoping to share knowledge and friendship between Earth and Zerthia." Zira nodded but said nothing more. She watched him with careful eyes. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the palace. Over the next days, Eric met many of Zira's advisors and scientists. They asked him questions about Earth, its people, its history, its culture. Eric answered with honesty. He spoke about humans' dreams and fears, their hopes and their mistakes. At times, Zira would listen from behind her doors. She found Eric's stories strange but also fascinating. He spoke about feelings that were powerful and sometimes confusing. He told of love, sadness, joy, and pain, emotions the Zerthians did not often show. One thing Eric talked about again and again was the idea of connection between people. "On Earth, we believe that our feelings make us strong," Eric said. "They help us understand each other and grow. Even in the hardest times, feelings give us hope." Zira thought about this. In her world, feelings were often hidden or seen as weakness. Leaders were taught to be cold and strong. But Eric's words stirred something inside her. A new curiosity. One evening, Zira invited Eric to her private garden. It was a strange place, filled with glowing plants and soft sounds. The air smelled sweet and calm. Zira wanted to learn more about this human and his strange world. "Tell me about this thing you call Climax," she said quietly. "You say it is a powerful moment, but I do not understand." Eric smiled. "It is hard to explain, Your Majesty. It is a moment when two people connect deeply. It is not just about the body, but also the heart and mind. It is a time of joy, peace, and sometimes a kind of magic." Zira looked at him carefully. "Magic?" she asked. Eric laughed softly. "No magic, just a deep feeling. It is a moment when the world feels perfect, even if only for a little while." Zira thought about this. Could humans really have something so different from her people? Was there power in feelings that she had never seen? As the days passed, Eric and Zira spent more time together. They talked about many things: history, war, peace, and what it meant to be strong. Eric showed her some simple Earth music and art through his device. Zira watched, fascinated by the colors and sounds, but Zira was careful. She did not want to lose control or show weakness. She was a queen, and her people expected strength. Still, Eric's presence made her question what she believed. One day, Zira asked Eric to join her at the ceremony of the Great Light. It was an ancient Xerthian ritual that celebrated the energy of life. The people believed it brought them strength and power. Eric agreed and was honored to be invited. The ceremony was unlike anything he had seen. Bright colors filled the sky, and the people moved in rhythm with drums and singing. Zira watched Eric closely. He smiled and clapped, enjoying the moment. For the first time, she saw him not as a stranger, but as a friend. After the ceremony, Zira spoke softly to Eric. "Your world is strange, Captain, but there is something beautiful in your stories and your feelings. Maybe there is more to strength than I thought." Eric looked at her kindly. "There is, Your Majesty. Strength comes in many forms, in the heart, in the mind, and in the spirit." Zira nodded slowly. The questions inside her grew stronger. Could she learn to understand these feelings? Could she find a new kind of power? For now, she only knew one thing. The arrival of this human had changed her world forever. The days passed quietly on Xerthia, but inside Queen Zira, something was stirring. The strange feelings Eric had spoken about, feelings of connection, joy, and something called Climax, refused to leave her mind. For a leader who ruled, with logic and strength, these thoughts were new and unfamiliar. Zira sat in her chamber, staring out at the violet mountains glowing under the twin moons. She thought about the human, Captain Eric Cole, his calm smile, his stories, and the way he spoke about emotions made her question everything she believed. She was a queen, a ruler of many worlds. But this was something beyond power or battle. Curious, she summoned her top scientists and ordered them to study humans more closely. "Find out what makes them feel these feelings," she commanded. "Show me why they believe in things we cannot see or control." The scientists worked quickly. Using advanced technology, they examined data from Earth and human biology. They sent probes and scanners to collect information. But no machine could fully explain what the humans called climax. It was not just physical, it was something deeper, connected to the mind and soul. One scientist, named Laura, approached the queen carefully. "Your Majesty," she said, "this feeling humans have is a mystery. It is not just biology, it is connection. It is energy that flows between people when they care deeply for each other." Zira frowned. "Energy between people? Is this useful for war or ruling?" Laura shook her head. "Not in the way you know. It is different. It is about trust and understanding. It can make people stronger in ways you have not seen." The queen thought for a moment. Could it be that her own strength had limits? Could this human feeling be a new kind of power? Meanwhile, Eric continued to share his stories with the court. He spoke of human friendships, families, and love. He told how these feelings helped humans survive tough times. His words touched some of Zira's advisors, who began to see the value in emotions. One day, Eric asked Zira to join him on a walk through the palace gardens. It was quiet and full of strange plants that glowed softly in the dark. "Your Majesty," Eric said, "may I tell you a story? It is about a human experience called Climax. It is not just about pleasure, but about connection. When two people share it, they feel a moment of perfect unity." Zira looked at him carefully. "Why do you think this is important?" "Because it shows us what it means to be alive," Eric answered. "It reminds us that we are not alone. It gives us hope and strength." Zira was silent. She had never thought about life in this way. For her, life was control, power, and survival. But Eric's words opened a new door in her mind. That night, Zira lay awake, thinking. She remembered her lonely nights as a queen, the weight of her crown, and the cold silence of her palace. Could there be more to life than power? Could she feel this connection Eric spoke of? The next day, Zyra surprised her court by asking for a demonstration of earth music and art. Eric showed her songs full of emotion and paintings that told stories of love and loss. As she listened to the music, something stirred in her heart, a warmth she did not expect. She felt curious and a little scared. Her advisors watched in silence. The queen was changing, slowly but surely. Days later, Eric invited Zira to join him in a meditation practice from Earth. It was simple, sitting, quietly, focusing on the breath and opening the mind. At first, Zira was skeptical, but she agreed. Together, they sat in silence, the soft hum of the palace around them. For the first time in her life, Zira felt peace. Not the peace of control, but the peace of letting go. After the meditation, she looked at Eric and smiled faintly. "There is something here," she said. "Something I do not yet understand, but I want to." Eric smiled back. "That is the first step, Your Majesty." The bond between them grew stronger. They shared stories, dreams, and hopes. Zira realized that Eric was not just a visitor from another world. He was a teacher, a friend, but the queen also knew that her people expected her to be strong and unshaken. She could not show too much weakness. Still inside her, curiosity burned bright. She wanted to learn more. She wanted to discover the truth behind the human myth of Climax. And so Zira's journey into a new world of feeling and connection began. The day of the ancient Xerthian ritual, the ceremony of the Great Light, had finally arrived. Queen Zira stood on the balcony of her palace, looking out at the vast crowd gathered in the great square below. The citizens of Xerthia were ready to celebrate the life energy that had sustained their planet for thousands of years. It was a day filled with color, music, and tradition, a day that honored strength and unity. Zira's thoughts were not only on the ceremony, but also on the human who had come to her world, Captain Eric Cole. Over the past weeks, he had become more than just a visitor. He was a symbol of something new, something unfamiliar yet powerful. The stories he told and the feelings he shared had begun to change the queen's mind. Eric approached Zira quietly and bowed. "Your Majesty, I am honored to witness this sacred ceremony with you." Zira nodded. "Come, Captain. Let us see what the great light reveals." The two walked down from the palace into the sea of people. The air was alive with the sound of drums singing and the shimmer of glowing lanterns floating above the crowd. The people moved in rhythm, their bodies swaying and stepping to the beat of ancient songs. Zira watched closely as the ritual unfolded. At the center of the square, the elders began a dance that told the story of life's energy flowing through the universe. Their movements were graceful but strong, and their faces shone with joy. Eric smiled, caught in the beauty of the moment. "This is wonderful," he said softly. "Your people honor life in a way that is truly special." Zira felt something strange stir inside her chest. The rhythm of the drums seemed to echo in her heart. She saw the faces of her people, proud, happy, alive. For the first time, she felt a connection not just to her kingdom, but to something deeper. As the ceremony reached its peak, the elders raised their hands to the sky, releasing a burst of light that spread over the crowd like a wave. The people cheered and laughed, their energy rising higher and higher. Zira closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the light wash over her. When she opened them, she saw Eric looking at her with a gentle smile. "You are changed," he said quietly. "This ceremony is like your own version of what I call Climax. It is a moment of unity and energy, a celebration of life's power." Zira nodded slowly. "I never understood before. I thought such things were weak, but now I see they are strength, a different kind of strength." Eric took her hand gently. "There is more to learn, Your Majesty." That night, back in the quiet of her chamber, Zira could not stop thinking about the ceremony. She had always led her people through logic and strategy, but now she understood that emotions could bring power too. She felt warmth, hope, and a strange joy she had never known. The next day, Zira invited Eric to a private meeting. She wanted to speak openly, without guards or advisors. "Captain," she began, "you have shown me many things about your world, about feelings, connection, and strength. But there is still one mystery I want to understand, the true meaning of Climax." Eric looked into her eyes and nodded. "It is a deep experience, Your Majesty. It is the moment when two people share everything, their thoughts, their feelings, their trust. It is a time of release and transformation." Zira listened carefully. "Is it only about pleasure?" "No," Eric said softly. "It is about connection. It can bring great joy, but also peace and understanding. It is a moment when two become one, even if just for a short time." The Queen thought about this. Could she allow herself to feel such a moment? Could a ruler show vulnerability and still remain strong? Eric sensed her question and smiled kindly. "Strength and vulnerability are not enemies. They can live together." Days turned into weeks, and Eric and Zira grew closer. They shared stories of their lives, their fears, and their hopes for the future. The Queen found herself laughing and dreaming, things she had not done in many years. One evening, as they walked through the glowing gardens, Eric reached out and took Zira's hand. She looked at him, surprised but not afraid. "Your Majesty," he said, "this journey is about more than politics or power. It is about discovering who we are together." Zira squeezed his hand gently. "Then let us walk this path, Captain. Together?" They stepped into a new world, a world where strength was more than force, where connection was power, and where the human myth of Climax was not just a story, but a new beginning. The palace was quiet in the late hours of the night. Soft lights glowed from the windows, and the stars shone bright over the violet mountains of Zerthia. Queen Zira stood by her balcony looking up at the sky. Her mind was full of questions, and thoughts she had never known before. Captain Eric Cole had become more than just a visitor. He was her friend, her teacher, and her guide into a new world of feelings. For the first time in her life, Zira was ready to understand the human myth of Climax, a moment she had once thought was only a story. Eric approached quietly. "Your Majesty," he said softly, "may I speak with you?" Zira turned and smiled. "Yes, Captain. I want to understand. Teach me." They walked to a quiet room filled with soft cushions and warm light. It was a place for peace and comfort, far from the cold halls of power. Eric sat down and looked at Zira with kindness. "Climax is not just about the body. It is about trust, connection, and complete openness. It is when two people share everything, their fears, their hopes, their love. It is a moment of unity and deep understanding." Zira listened closely. Her heart beat faster. But can a queen show such openness and still be strong? Eric smiled. "Yes. True strength comes from knowing yourself and being willing to share that with another. It is not weakness. It is courage." Zira reached out and took Eric's hand. She felt warmth spread through her body. It was a new feeling, soft but powerful. They spent time together, learning from each other. Eric showed Zira how to trust and let go, how to find peace in vulnerability. Zira taught Eric about courage, leadership, and the strength of a people who had survived for centuries. One evening, under the glow of the twin moons, they shared a moment of quiet closeness. The air was filled with the scent of glowing flowers, and the stars above seemed to watch over them. In that moment, Zira felt a wave of energy rise inside her, a feeling she had never known. It was powerful, joyful, and deep. It was the climax she had heard about, a moment of perfect connection. Tears filled her eyes, not from sadness but from understanding. She realized that this experience was a gift, a truth hidden in the stories of humans. Eric held her gently. "You are not alone, Zira. We are connected." For the first time, the queen felt free, free to be herself, strong and vulnerable at the same time. The next day, Zira stood before her people and spoke with a new voice. "My fellow Zirthians," she said, "I have learned something important. Strength is not only in power and control, it is also in connection, in trust, and in the courage to be open. We will move forward together, stronger than ever." Her people listened, surprised, but inspired. They saw a new light in their queen, a light born from understanding and love. Eric smiled from the side, proud of the queen who had dared to believe in the human myth and made it real. Together, they had broken the barriers between worlds and hearts. Together, they had found a new way to be strong. The days following Queen Zira's speech were filled with excitement and change. Her people talked about the new ideas she shared, about strength, connection, and courage. Zirthia was no longer just a world ruled by power and rules. It was becoming a place where feelings mattered too. Captain Eric Cole stayed by the Queen's side. Together, they worked to build bridges between Earth and Zirthia. They met with leaders, scientists, and artists from both worlds, sharing knowledge and stories. The people of Zirthia were curious about Earth, and humans wanted to learn about the aliens' wisdom. Zira felt different too. She no longer saw herself only as a queen with power. She was also a learner and a friend. She understood that true leadership meant opening the heart as well as the mind. One morning, she stood on the palace balcony, looking at the glowing forests and distant mountains. The air was fresh, and the twin suns of Zirthia warmed her skin. Beside her, Eric smiled and took her hand. "Your Majesty," he said softly, "you have changed not only yourself, but your whole world." Zira smiled back. "And you, Eric, have shown me a new path, one I never thought possible." Together they planned a new future, one where Earth and Zirthia worked side by side, learning and growing. They created schools to teach both humans and Zirthians about each other's cultures. They built centers where people could explore music, art, and feelings. The idea of Climax, once a myth to the Queen, became a symbol of unity. It was no longer a secret or a strange story, but a celebration of connection and trust. One evening, during a festival to celebrate their new alliance, Zira stood with Eric before the crowd. The sky was filled with stars, and lanterns floated like glowing flowers. "Today," Zira said, "we celebrate not only our worlds but the bonds we share. Together, we are stronger. Together, we are free." The crowd cheered, their voices ringing across the night. As the festival continued, Zira felt a peaceful joy deep inside. She had found a new kind of strength, one born from love, trust, and the courage to be open. Eric looked at her and whispered, "This is just the beginning." Zira nodded, her heart full. The journey that began with a myth had led to a new era for her people, and for humanity. Together they faced the future, ready for whatever challenges or joys it might bring.